Greetings from Guidance. I'm Pooja Kulkarni, MD and CEO of Guidance. Just to introduce about Guidance, Guidance is the single window agency which does investment promotion for Tamil Nadu. It is the single point contract for all investors wanting to consider Tamil Nadu as an investment destination. So, just to brief you about what we do, our primary goal is investment promotion. We scan more than 12 sectors. We talk to investors and generate leads, and that is how we promote investments in Tamil Nadu. Once we have connected with the investor, after that we handhold the investor to set up their operations in Tamil Nadu. So that could be getting their clearances, identifying the appropriate sites for them, all the permissions from the regulatory authorities. All of that is facilitated by Guidance. We also have exclusive teams which are into external engagement. So we connect with all the industry associations within the country as well as the international investor community and the international industry associations. Apart from that, we connect with the Indian missions abroad, also with the consul generals within the country. We are also the primary agency which prepares the policies for industrial investment promotion. We monitor the developments in the economy, and we primarily serve as a knowledge team for government. Apart from that, we have a team which also handles the media and communication and to promote Tamil Nadu as a favorable investment destination. So, just to brief you about Tamil Nadu is the second largest economy in India with a size of GDP $265 billion, and now the vision of the new government is to make it a $1 trillion economy by 2030 and mobilize investments of the order of 26 lakh crores. As a state, we provide the primary inputs. We are surplus, and we ensure that the primary inputs that go into production, be it power or manpower, land, all of these are facilitated in the state. These are available in plenty in the state. Power, we are power surplus. We are the 10th largest state in the country. We have a population of about 7.2 crores, that is 70 million. Tamil Nadu is also the most urbanized state in the country amongst the large states. More than 50% of our population lives in urban areas, and therefore the state is not only pivoted as a manufacturing destination but also a large consuming economy prevails in the state. It is a highly industrialized state. We are home to 74 of the Fortune 500 companies, and it is also reflecting in the connectivity that we have. We have 6 airports, of which 4 are international airports. We also have 4 large seaports in the state, 3 of which are in Chennai and 1 is in Tuticorin. This is what I have already mentioned. I've already spoken about the airports, 4 international airports and 2 domestic. So from anywhere in the country we can connect within the day, and we are well connected with destinations abroad also. More than 2,400 weekly flights. Of course, in the present situation these are curtailed, but during normal times we have more than 2,400 weekly flights to and from the state. More than 500 international flights also fly weekly. Seaports, I mentioned there are 3 major seaports in Chennai and 1 major port in Tuticorin, and the volume of cargo that we handle is of the order of 240 million tons. The road network of Tamil Nadu is something that is well known across the country. The network of national and state highways is at par with the best, and the quality of the state highways also is at par with that of the national highways. Internet connectivity, we have nearly 15 Tbps of bandwidth available, which is the highest amongst the Indian states. We also have the undersea cables landing at Chennai, which gives us an added advantage. The policy landscape for Tamil Nadu, which governs investments, in 2019 we launched the EV policy. Prior to that, we had an industrial policy, which was of course covering the earlier tax regime, which now we have revised to measure up to the present tax regime. And early this year, we launched the Tamil Nadu industrial policy. Last year, we also launched the electronics hardware manufacturing policy. During the year, we will also be launching a few more policies, one for fintech sector, another for the life sciences sector, which would cover pharma, biotech, biomanufacturing, medical electronics, and medical textiles. So all of these we would expect to cover within the life sciences policy. And with the feedback that we have got, we would also look to update our EV policy. Just to give you an overview of the policies that we have, the target of our EV policy is to attract about 50,000 crores of investments in manufacturing, and this is to cover the entire ecosystem of electric vehicles. So that includes bikes, cars, the batteries, the components such as the drives, the powertrains, the charging infrastructure. And the goal of the policy is to create a conducive environment for all of these to come together as a hub. Tamil Nadu's strength has been the automotive hub. We have created a model where the OEMs have benefited from a favorable hub which has been created for them and their component suppliers. So we aim to create a similar hub for the EV, for the electronic vehicles segment also. We are already power surplus, but the infrastructure that is required for the growth of the EV segment is something that we intend to create further. Under the EV policy, we also would like to focus on R&D and startups. So we provide incubation services. We also intend to provide parking spaces, earmarked parking spaces for EVs in commercial buildings and charging stations. We will be making amendments to our building regulations to promote such an endeavor. Under the policy, we offer incentives to industries, to investors which are in the EV sector. Some of them are common incentives which we provide across sectors, and these would be available whether you seek incentives either under the EV policy or the industrial policy or the electronics hardware policy. And these are the 100% exemption on stamp duty, subsidy on cost of land depending on the district where the site is situated, 100% exemption on electricity tax for a specified period, then training subsidy, and additional capital subsidy for the MSME sector. Under the EV sector, we would be offering 100% reimbursement of the SGST on the vehicles manufactured and sold within the state. And on the investments as such, we would be offering 15% capital subsidy. So this would be applicable basically if the vehicles are not sold within the state, so they may be manufactured here, but they would be sold outside or exported. So for such units, we would be providing 15% subsidy on the capital investments. For battery manufacturers, we provide 20% subsidy on the capital invested. On the demand side incentives, currently the road tax is exempted, registration fees are waived off, and permit fees also are waived off. We would be covering more of the demand side incentives in our updated EV policy shortly. The next policy that I would like to cover is the electronics hardware manufacturing policy. Tamil Nadu already has a strong base in electronics hardware manufacturing, and we have some of the leading international companies which have set up base here. Our aim is to transform Tamil Nadu into a globally competitive electronic system design and manufacturing destination. for which we would like to build the necessary infrastructure. We are aware that this requires skilled manpower, and we are also working towards that in collaboration with our Skill Development Corporation, also in collaboration with our technical universities and technical education institutions. We also are encouraging startups in the sector. During the last 4 years, Tamil Nadu has seen tremendous growth in this sector. More than 15% CAGR is what we have clocked over the last 4 years. And the sector has also contributed significantly to our exports. Our aim is to attract electronics hardware manufacturers, not just in the mobile sector, but also in the consumer goods sector, in precision engineering, and more importantly in the semiconductor and fab sectors. So this is what I covered. For the electronic hardware manufacturers also, we would be providing incubating services. We have innovation grants and startup grants. Our target is to skill more than 1 lakh people during the policy period specifically for this sector, and we would be entering into joint training programs and certifications. We would also like to develop common parks, specified ESDM parks, exclusive ESDM parks with common infrastructure, and all clearances would of course be would be facilitated through our portal. This is a snapshot of the categorization of our districts. So the districts in the rust color are the Chennai sector, which covers Chennai, Chengalpet, Kanchipuram and Tiruvallur districts. These are classified as A. The ones in orange are the B districts, and the ones in yellow are the C districts. So our emphasis is to try and develop greater industry focus in the C districts, due to which we offer higher incentives also in the C districts. So while if you are willing to set up your unit in an A district, the minimum threshold is 500 crores, whereas if it is in a C district, it is only 200 crores. And depending on the size, the nature of incentives also vary. This is the incentive that we offer, and this is the capital subsidy that we offer under this policy for electronics hardware manufacturing units is higher than what we offer under the industrial policy. So for A districts, depending on the size, it is 15 and 18%. For B, it is 20 and 24, and for C districts, it is 25 and 30. The other incentives which are common, I had already mentioned under the EV policy. Those same incentives are available here also, so which is exemption on stamp duty, subsidy on land cost, training subsidy, exemption of the electricity tax. Apart from that, we also offer a defraying of costs on creation of intellectual capital and quality certifications. Also, interest subvention on actual term loans for a period of 6 years for industries that are investing in the mega category. Let me now dwell upon the industrial policy. Our vision is, of course, to make Tamil Nadu the most favored destination for investments across the world, and our vision now is to make Tamil Nadu the best in South Asia itself. Like I mentioned earlier, our vision is to make Tamil Nadu a $1 trillion economy by 2030. The investment climate in Tamil Nadu is already favorable, but we would like to improve that further and endeavor to make that the best in the world, to continuously ease the doing of business, to develop the skilled manpower in the state, to harness the state's skilled resources, and also ensure balanced development. So these are some of the initiatives that we are taking under the industrial policy. We have guidance is already the single point agency. We also have a single window portal which now provides more than 100 services through which you can for which you can apply online. It is a common form, and guidance will facilitate the according of permissions across various departments. This processing will be parallel, which will of course save a lot of time for the investor in getting the requisite clearances. We also have another portal called BizBuddy, which is to again resolve investor issues in a time-bound manner. This is primarily for investor aftercare. So while the initial handholding is through the single window portal, once the industry is set up, then the interaction with the industry is through the BizBuddy portal. This is the classification of industries. It is the same as what we mentioned for the electronics hardware sector. And the investment periods, the investment ranges differ depending on the nature of the district. So while in the A districts here you would require a minimum investment of 500 crores to be eligible for incentives. In the C districts it is sufficient, the B and C districts, it is sufficient that the threshold investment level is about 300 crores. The investment period of course varies depending on the size of investment. For industries that are, for each of these categories we offer a different level of incentives. One of the unique features of our policy is that we offer a bouquet of options. So suiting to the investor's requirement and what benefits the investor most, the investor is welcome to choose that incentive option. The investor is also welcome to choose the policy that suits the investor best. So if it is an EV investor, then the investor has the choice to pick up the incentives that suit him best, whether under the industrial policy or under the EV policy. Similarly, an electronics hardware manufacturing investor can see if the incentives under the electronics hardware manufacturing policy, if they offer a higher benefit, the investor can choose that. Or on the other hand, if the option under the industrial policy offers a higher benefit, the investor is free to choose the industrial policy. So within the industrial policy itself, we offer choices of a fixed capital subsidy, a flexible capital subsidy under which if the industry is in a sunrise sector and generates a higher level of employment, then up to 40% of the capital invested can be sanctioned as a subsidy. There is also a turnover subsidy option for high employment generating industry, SGST reimbursement for goods which can be ascertained that they are definitely sold within the state. The standard incentives are covered under the industrial policy also, so I would not repeat them. They are common across the EV policy, the electronics policy and the industrial policy. Under the industrial policy for very large units, that is the ultra mega units, we also offer interest subvention of 5% up to a cap of 4 crores per annum for 6 years. For the sunrise sector investments also the interest subvention is offered for not just the ultra mega, but it is offered for the large and the mega projects also. There is a training subsidy of 4,000 per month for male employees and 6,000 per month for female employees for 6 months, and a land cost incentive in the C districts which can be as high as 50%. Apart from this, we also offer a relocation subsidy for FDI projects. An investor who is relocating from a foreign location to Tamil Nadu within the policy period, there is a defraying of the cost of shifting, that is the cost of transport and logistics, up to 75% of the actual cost incurred with a cap of 10 crores. There is also an R&D training subsidy specifically engaged towards investors which are engaged in core research and development projects, and that is about rupees 10,000 per month for 12 months. Apart from the large investments, we have certain standard incentives which we offer sub-large investments also. So there is a capital subsidy of 1 crore which shall be dispersed on completion of the investment. The electricity tax incentive, training subsidy for R&D projects, 50% concession on stamp duty, and an incentive for green industry is also available, up to 25% of the cost, or a limit of rupees 1 crore. Under the policy, we also aim to develop industrial parks, welcome investors who would like to develop industrial parks. We already have a few private investors who have developed industrial parks, and we promote investments in those parks too. So the eligibility for such an investment would be greater than 500 crores in the B and C districts, and a capital subsidy of about 12 to 15% of the investment in the eligible fixed assets is available to be sanctioned. The dispersal would be slab based. Within the park, development of industrial housing, residential facilities also are eligible for 10% subsidy, and there is also an enhanced incentive for green initiatives. So 25% of the cost for something like an effluent treatment plant would be available, subject to an upper limit. The industry logistics is a critical input for industry, and under the policy we aim to improve the logistics network. We already have a good network, however we aim to improve upon the network in terms of storage facilities as well as parks. So a multimodal logistics park containing an inland container depot with a minimum investment of 50 crores and spread over at least 10 acres would be eligible. Cold chain facilities, warehousing facilities would also be eligible, subject to threshold limits. The point to be noted is that the logistics infrastructure sector is also being given industry status, and therefore the tariffs, the permissions to operate in 3 shifts, all of those would be available. We would also be facilitating such investments through the single window portal. A training cost would also be defrayed up to rupees 10,000 per employee, and special incentives are also available for integrated logistics parks in the B and C category districts, subject to meeting the criteria and relaxation of non-processing area. R&D projects, mere manufacturing would not be sufficient to propel growth. It is innovation and research and development which really caters to newer products being developed, and we would like to partner with industry to promote R&D within the state. These are also provided with certain incentives in the policy. So there is a threshold level of investment. The R&D unit must be located, of course, within the state. For such units, we are providing 50% of the cost of land or lease up to a certain, subject to a certain ceiling. Subsidies available. Like I mentioned earlier, subsidies also available for the employees which work in this unit. That would be at the rate of 10,000 rupees for 12 months, and the standard incentives applicable to manufacturing as well as the quality certification and intellectual property creation, these would also be available for the R&D projects. So I have covered the incentives that we offer in our policies in brief. I would request all the investors participating here to kindly reach out to us. We would be hand-holding your investment through and through, and I would like to take this opportunity to again welcome you all to Tamil Nadu.